Hello and welcome to Interviews from My Hometown. My name is Seth, and today we have Steven. Steven, welcome to the show.
What's up, Seth? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. I'm super excited to have you on the show. I've gotten to talk to you very, very briefly, but I love to get to know people and get to hear their stories. And Steven, could you please give a brief description about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a youth pastor. I'm also a magician. I don't know if I can say both at the same time because I'm technically a full-time youth pastor, but I was a full-time magician. So I'm a magician slash youth pastor. I'm from New York City, the Big Apple, and I find myself now in small-time Wenatchee, family guy. And yeah, man, I'm just all about kind of having fun and connecting with everybody.
Awesome. So how long have you lived in the greater Wenatchee area?
Man, I think I'm just at 2.5 years now, so I'm new.
Okay.
I'm new to the city.
Perfect. So you said you were from New York City originally. What
Yeah.
was early life like for you? Meaning like sports, extracurricular activities, first jobs, and
Yeah.
just New York City in general, and like fun stories out of that.
So New York City is super different from Wenatchee in the sense that like everybody in the small town does everything really big, and everybody in New York City just doesn't care about it. So, so I was growing up, we did sports and everything just like out here, but sports are just not important in big cities at all. So I played baseball and soccer and all these things, but they just like weren't a big deal. Nobody cared about them because there was 5,000 other people in the city doing the exact same thing. Where I've come here and I've noticed sports are huge. Like you just can't you can't get away from it at all. I feel like everybody here is just a massive sports fan. Even if you're not a sports fan, you probably are. You just don't know it yet if you live here. But yeah, Matt, I grew up in the heart of Manhattan, the heart of New York City, like right in Manhattan. I was in Times Square like every other day. So I was a nobody in the middle of this big city. Started doing magic in Manhattan and touring the city, and then kind of one thing led to another, and I moved out of the big city to Florida for a short period, and then ended up coming to Wenatchee, which is a huge difference from the city.
Yeah. I heard you talking about you being a family man. I wanted to ask about your wife and kids.
Yeah. I've got a wife and 2 kids. My wife and I met at Bible school. When it's a weird story. When I first saw my wife, I thought she was the weirdest person in the world. And I was like, couldn't imagine even talking to this woman because she was really strange. She was really quirky, and she came into my class. She was a year older than me in the school. And she just like came into my class with like finger guns blazing to like the first year students. And she was like yelling out weird things like gee willikers and like weird things. And then she left, and I was like, that chick is weird. But then we at the school I went to, we were forced to not date because it was the Bible school, so we were forced to not date at all. So we were forced to just hang out with people. So naturally, you hung out with people that you actually like were friends with. So at the end of the school, we were just like best friends. Ended up getting married real quick soon after. We've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I've got a crazy 1-year-old man that ended up forcing me to go to the to the ER this week, which was crazy.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about your work as a youth pastor here in town.
Yeah, I'm the youth pastor at Calvary Crossroads. So it's called Crossroads Youth. The church, so our church has actually been around for I think 30 years, and I'm the second youth pastor we've ever had. The first guy just killed it and was here for forever, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the second youth pastor in town. I was a youth pastor in Florida on a volunteer basis. So I was working a full-time job. I was a magician, and then I just like loved youth ministry, loved students. So got jumped in on that, and then felt like I was supposed to be doing this full-time. Moved up here, became the youth pastor over here, and yeah, man, it's awesome. I'm the youth pastor here, and it's just been a crazy roller coaster in the last 2 years. My like 3rd week here,
Mm-hmm.
Seth, I invited somebody over to come look at the youth group because I was going to do something, and I was like, hey, I want you to come shadow me, see what we're going to do. And we had nobody show up. Like nobody. And the first 30 minutes, it was so awkward. And then we had like 3 high schoolers show up like 40 minutes later. It was just bad, man. But yeah, it's been crazy in the last 2 years. We don't have that anymore. Now we're like 20 times that number now, and just it's been a blessing, like what God's been doing in our church and through what I'm doing. And it's been cool getting I used to be a magician, like I said, before being a youth pastor. And it's been cool being able to incorporate that into what I do now here, with students or stuff that I'm saying, or just like figuring out ways to incorporate magic into what I'm doing as a youth pastor, which is a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite story from work, whether that be with the students or with your other staff members out at Calvary?
Yeah. So I like pranks. I love like pranking people. And it's just like my thing. I love a good prank, whether it's on me or against me, by me or against me. And word got out that I love pranks. So one day I showed up to my office, and when I came into my office, I've got a big office. My office is, just so you can picture how much work went into this, I don't have like a small office. I have a loft. Like I have an apartment as an office, basically. Yeah, I'd show you around, but then I'd have to pick up the computer. But, yeah. So my apartment's a loft with a fridge. Like I've got everything. And I found my entire apartment bubble wrapped individually. So like the computer, the couch, every individual pencil was bubble wrapped. The desk was bubble wrapped. And then when I would open up things, everything inside was bubble wrapped. It was epic. So I found out who bubble wrapped me, and I although she didn't want to admit it, but it was our children's director here. So one day we were at a staff meeting, and I hired 4 middle schoolers to come in and put Post-it notes on her car, so I wouldn't be traced to it. So we left staff meeting, and then I found out during the staff meeting that she had to go see a lawyer. So she's all dressed up, trying to be professional. And she walks out to her car. That's literally like, they did a fantastic job, man. They covered her entire car except for her windows and lights in Post-it notes in different colors. And they somehow used the Post-it notes. They put the colors together to draw things. So they had like a smiley face in the front of the car and stuff all over. So that was the start. It's been a back and forth thing, but that was the start of the Calvary Crossroads prank war. Probably my favorite story so far from being here.
That's awesome. So what do you do? What do you like to do outside of work?
Outside of work, so I'm a magician. So I like to. You'll usually find me with a deck of cards, like within reach. So I'm usually having a deck of cards in my hand or practicing magic. In some way. Love hanging out with family. My kids and my wife are always doing something together. Usually trying to be safe. My 1-year-old's a little bit crazy and dislocated his arm the other day. So we try to do something a little bit safe because he's a little bit crazy. And then a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm a big gamer.
Okay.
So especially like lately, I'm usually like on Call of Duty Warzone every day right now. I'm a big gamer. So if I don't have a deck of cards in my hand or I'm hanging out with my family, I'll usually have like a PlayStation 4 controller in my hand.
All right. Yeah. So when we're not in a quarantine and we're stuck inside our house, what have you found to be some of your favorite spots around town to be at?
Ooh. So this has been interesting because I came from New York City where I had access to everything, and then I moved here and I quickly realized that like we don't have anything in the city that's indoors. We've got a lot of outdoor stuff, but we don't have indoor things. So it's been a big learning curve because if I answered this outside of Wenatchee, I'd mention like a laser tag spot or something like that, but we don't have anything like that.
Yeah. So
for me and my family, even, it's just been like anything outdoors. We've been loving going on like hikes in the mountains. Where we live, we've got Castle Rock Mountain right behind us, so it's a real short walk to take up there, and the views of the city are just incredible. So my favorite thing for sure is just any spot with a view that I can force my wife to go up. She's not a big heights fan, but she'll do it if I need her to. So anything with a view.
Awesome. So I personally feel you can tell a lot by a person through their music tastes. So I wanted to ask about your music taste and what you listen to on a daily basis.
So I like a whole lot of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I've got a whole lot of everything. So if you went through my iPhone right now, I'd have a rap song right next to a Taylor Swift song, followed by like a Hillsong worship song. So my music seriously is just all over the place. I'm usually listening to like worship music, especially right now, like Hillsong or like Elevation Worship and all the big bands. And then if I'm not listening to that lately this week, it's been either Michael Jackson or Taylor Swift for some reason. So as weird as that music, I don't know what that says about me, but that's what I'm jamming to this week.
Yeah, a lot of people when they say, yeah, I listen to everything, they'll usually preface this by going, I listen to everything but country.
Country, yep, that's what I was gonna say. There's some country in my playlist.
It usually just means they're kind of more in depth to be open for everything.
That makes sense.
So yeah. Going into more of the weird personal questions, what's something that most people underestimate about
you? Ooh, what's something most people underestimate about me? You know, so I come off as like a real, we're talkative right now, but I come off initially as like a real kind of like quiet, laid back person. Mm-hmm. And then it's because in my, because I was a magician when I was younger. One thing that a lot of people don't know about most magicians is that we're really observatory, because we watch stuff to figure out how it works.
Yeah.
So I'll come into a room real quiet and I just want to watch. And then if you give me like an hour or sometimes a day, I'll be real quiet. And people all think that I'm just like this quiet person, but it's psychologically I'm getting the lay of the land.
Yeah.
And then usually after that hour or the day, I switch, and then I'm like the most talkative person in the room, and I kind of feel everybody out, and I know what you're about and what this person likes doing, and vice versa. So they usually actually don't. When I first come in, people don't think I'm talkative or social at all until like an hour switches in, and then I switch from like trying to understand everybody to being the life of the party. I guess most people don't think I'm the life of the party.
Okay. What's the best compliment someone's given you?
Ooh, best compliment somebody's given me. Probably this is gonna sound real cheesy, but my wife gives me compliments all the time. I'm trying to think of one specific one, but anything my wife gives me is honestly the best compliment in the world, because my wife has seen the best and the lows, where mm-hmm. everybody else just sees the best. I think my wife the other day, actually this is, they may or may not be the best one, but that's the only one I can think of. The other day she was telling me that I'm really like loving, and it hit me hard because this is the same woman that like we argue, we have, my wife, she sees stuff that nobody else sees. So for her to say that really means that like I either am that or I'm becoming that, because she's seeing the sides of me that nobody else sees. Yeah. I feel like most people just want compliments from anybody, but it's the closest people in your life that really affects you the most.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So a term that I found that no one else agrees with me with is a term called a Wenatcheeite. It means a person that lives in Wenatchee, but I'm not sure that's the actual term. So what does being a Wenatcheeite mean to you?
So I feel like being a Wenatcheeite means you live in Wenatchee, right?
Yeah.
You've got to like the outdoors. Like if you don't like the outdoors, move. Just go somewhere else. So you've got to like the outdoors. You've got to love food, because this area's got all the mom and pop places to eat.
Yeah.
And then let's see, outdoors, food. And I also feel like you've got to secretly, internally in your head, hate anything on the other side of the mountain. I feel like that's the definition of a Wenatchee.
Yeah. Yo, that's the most truthful answer I've heard so far.
I was gonna say it's probably not similar to the other answers you've gotten.
No. So one thing I love to do during the show is, as a person that's lived in Wenatchee all my life, I love to pass the question off to the guest. Ask me some questions. Doesn't have to be about Wenatchee, but
sweet.
I'm living here all my life. I'm basically an expert.
And so I do have a couple questions for you because I've asked this to similar people who have lived in Wenatchee all their life. Are you looking forward to like getting out of Wenatchee and experiencing something else for a bit, or are you comfortable and are you loving just being in Wenatchee?
For the longest time, I really wanted to leave Wenatchee and move to a California or
Yeah,
Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere down there, um, and run or try and join a production company because that's where all of
nice,
my interline schooling went to is production, whether that be audio or visual. Um, but lately I've um, getting to be an intern at Sage Hills Church and getting to help with everything that's been going on. I found a
nice,
new appreciation for living here in Wenatchee, and I don't
nice.
really want to go currently. But if something leads along that lets me move,
Yeah,
I'm gonna take it.
yeah, it's a great place to live.
Oh yeah.
Um, what this I was curious too when you were asking me about music. What movies are you into?
My favorite movies. Ooh. Um. So a lot of my movie taste comes from my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
he grew up in the 80s, so a lot of those 80s movies I love. Quentin Tarantino is another
Yeah,
director that I love. Um, a
yeah, he's got
movie
some good
that
ones.
yeah, a movie that most people wouldn't have heard of is a movie called Trading Places. It's a really
Trading.
funny movie.
Mm.
It has Eddie Murphy in it. Um, it's totally not appropriate, but it's really funny. Um, and a movie called A Few Good Men. Uh,
Yeah,
that's up there with my favorite movies. That's
that's a good one too.
kind of where a lot of law movies, comedies, and superhero movies is where it lies into.
Nice. Um, so wait, are you on the east side of Wenatchee or the west side?
Uh,
Is he in
so
Wenatchee or East Wenatchee?
I'm currently in Wenatchee. I graduated from Eastmont and grew up in East Wenatchee.
Is that even allowed?
I don't know.
To like, sweet, sweet. Um, and then so last question. We'll take it out of Wenatchee. If you could, besides Wenatchee, best city in the world, where and why?
Oh man. Um, you know, this is going to be controversial for me, at least. It have to be Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh man, yeah,
I'm a huge history buff, and
it's a great city.
everything that's happened history kind of started in Boston. And
Same. Yeah, I like history.
I'm also a big hockey and uh just sports in general, and the Bruins are one of my favorite teams, and they're out
Nice,
of Boston. So uh guy living in that bigger area, and getting to see that all the time, I think that would be awesome.
nice. This is an awesome city.
Yeah, I've visited once. Yeah, once at this point. I'd love to visit more though.
Yeah, long flight from here, but an awesome
Oh
city.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I were to be honest though, if like if my mom was in the room or my dad was in the room, I'd probably say Maui. Um,
Yeah.
it's warm, so
Yeah. Yeah. Boston can get cold, man. I've been there.
yeah,
It's colder than New York City, even.
yeah. Okay, so the way I love to end the show is I ask the guest to tell me one of their favorite jokes or just a joke in general.
All right. Let's see. I've got a couple. You know what? I like a good knock knock joke. Let's do a knock knock joke.
Perfect.
All right. Let's do it. See, I've got like so many knock knock jokes. You just develop these as a magician. You meet some weird people and you hear jokes all the time. All right, I've got to go on. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Control freak.
Control freak who?
Now you say control freak.
Control freak.
There you go. That'll work hopefully.
Oh, that was perfect. Yeah. So Interviews from My Hometown is a production of Hometown Productions. And Steven, thank you for being on the show. It was quite a pleasure. Man.
This was a blast. Seriously, this was fun. It was good talking to you again.
Yeah. Interviews from My Hometown is sound mixed by Seth Gamble, hosted by Seth Gamble, funded by Seth Gamble, and is produced by Hometown Productions. Music is by Pink on YouTube.